Cheers for tuning in. This is the first episode of Defining Sound with S.N.U.S, where we're going to talk to some legendary music producers, up-and-coming artists, and understand the music that has helped define their sound and production. Look at some great tracks they've produced and things they've got coming up. And this on YouTube, we'll be putting out a couple a month and just explore the sounds and equally the artists that have inspired us. Starting off, we've got Jeremy Sylvester, who is a legendary garage producer, house producer from UK from the 90s onwards, with an absolute massive catalogue of productions and ongoing innovations. And we thought, great artists to kick it off. Just been doing a boiler room recently. Yeah, so Jeremy, how you doing?
Very well, chaps. Very well, very well. Hanging in there, waiting for things to open, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the future, man. Do you know what I mean?
Have you managed to stay busy during the current times?
Sorry?
Have you managed to stay busy during the current times?
Yeah. I like to keep myself busy. Otherwise, I'll go a bit mental. So yeah, I'll just keep myself active and physically and mentally. Yeah, just getting some ideas down, and yeah, just keeping things moving, man. You know what I mean? I love it.
Awesome. Should we kick off with your first choice, Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, this is the first choice. Body Snatch. This track here, probably because I started off making jungle, right, in probably about 1991, and when I started making jungle, I obviously came from the rave era. When I started making jungle, it wasn't actually called jungle. There was no actual name for it. It was a bit like, it was very much an experimental stage of to what was going on the British scene back then. So like. But one of the tracks that stood out for me at that time was this track, Body Snatch, Just For You London, man. This track here was kind of like, it kind of motivated me and inspired me to, for my early jungle productions as Dubtronics, and yeah, it was just one of those tracks that I just loved the way it was constructed, the fact that, it had that kind of Just For You London, just that phrase as well, that whole kind of just made it really cool for me, just to kind of giving a nod to the London scene and whatnot, and yeah, it just resonated with me, man. And the way the production behind it, the beats, that classic Amen break, the way it was chopped up, and yeah, it was just, for me, yeah, it was just one of those tracks that inspired me, man, just from back then, through my early Dubtronic productions, and just kind of, even to this day, I'll listen back to it now. I mean, I haven't heard it for a while, and just listening, listening back to this track again, it just kind of brings back memories to that day, and it's actually re-inspired me now, because actually I started to make jungle again. And and listening to these tracks now again, it just kind of like takes me back to that period of time. And yeah, this track here, it's absolutely banging, and every time I hear it, it just gives me goose pimples, man. It's just one of those tracks for me.
Cool. We'll play a little snippet of it, and then for all the viewers, there'll be links to it in the.
London, just for you, London.
Yeah, I mean, that sort of like ragga bass line and everything. It sounds modern, but at the same time, there's elements that put you back to that early, like there's elements that you get in bleep techno and things as well with the same bass line and the.
Exactly. Yeah. You can hear that. You can hear the early rave influence as well, especially with that chopped up vocal in there, that female vocal in there, that whole rush vocal there. Yeah. It just brings it back to those early rave days, hardcore days, man. I mean, you can hear the development of the sound. It's almost like the transition from rave to jungle. It has those elements in there. It was at that point in time where it just kind of just bridged that whole scene together. For me.
I mean, the tempo seems a lot slower than I would have kind of imagined for this
Yeah.
type of music as well.
It's crazy because I mean at the time, we thought it was well fast, but
Yeah.
looking back at it now, it does seem quite slow, the tempo. But it's quite bizarre. But yeah, it's I quite like it at this tempo now. You kind of hear the elements more, I suppose, as well.
Yeah. So where would you have first heard this then, Jeremy?
You know what? I probably would have heard this on some kind of old cassette tape mixtape from somewhere.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Probably some old rave mixtape I probably picked up somewhere and that. But in Birmingham, where there wasn't much of at the time there wasn't much of a pirate radio scene as such. There was probably one or two stations, but for me, but there was a massive rave scene. The certain clubs in Birmingham, the Q Club, and they've got the Hummingbird and other places around, in the surrounding areas in Wolverhampton, Coventry. They had massive raves, outdoor raves, and I wasn't much of a raver back then, but I did dabble, a few times, and I used to hear this track, and especially when I first started going out, start going out in London, start traveling to London, and hitting those raves down there and certain clubs, and listening to the pirate stations, in London as well, and they're all playing this track. This was like a massive anthem back then. So that's probably where I heard it. Somewhere along those lines, I heard it.
So, I mean, to me as well, it's straight away sort of, the influences to your later stuff kind of really, was it a starting point? Do you think for something for you, this track? Like in a big way?
I would say so. Yeah, I mean, my early stuff was kind of, based around this kind of stuff anyway. Or, a lot of the producers were sampling Amen breaks, all kinds of different James Brown breaks and whatnot, hip hop breaks, and speeding it up, But yeah, it was just like, I would say, but it's just the simplicity of the beats as well. It just rolls, and it's got space as well in that break, and all you're hearing is "Just for You, London, London, London," and the elements come in, those ravey kind of female vocal chord rushes that come in every now and again. It just makes it really fills it out. But at the same time, it's got space, and at the same time, it's got that sub bass behind it as well. It just rolls, man. I just love it, man.
I mean, I can imagine that sub being absolutely huge on a sound system as well.
Oh man, yeah, absolutely, man. It was just pure goose pimples, man. Every time I hear it, even to this day now, just hearing it, just then that clip we just played there, just kind of just gives me that emotion again, takes me back. So yeah, I would say this is probably that track that kind of really kind of inspired me and took my jungle production at that time to another level. I would say that. Kind of
what did you start with producing then? What were you producing on back then, Jeremy?
Well, back then when I first started, I was using, cause my dad had a recording studio. He was doing like a lot of reggae. He was working with a lot of reggae artists in the area in Birmingham, Handsworth, and he had like an old C-Lab, old Atari ST computer running C-Lab notator or creator software. Whereas like everyone else was probably using like Cubase, right? And I seemed like I was the only one that was using this C-Lab creator, and there was a lot more, if you look at it, it just looks like numbers, it's not as simplistic as far as like the layout, with Cubase, you have the layout going across the screen like that. Whereas like Cubase, it's all numbers going down, and you just kind of work out the numbers and the bars and whatnot. And I started off using that. I had that old Akai S900 sampler and an S950 sampler as well. That's what I started off with. Those were the two main pieces of equipment which were the backbone to my productions back then. And that's pretty much it, really.
I was going to say, how many seconds of sampling time did he have? Do you reckon?
Well, you know what I mean. It wasn't very long. We're talking seconds here. You know what I mean. So especially with the floppy disk that he put in there, he didn't hold that much. So so I suppose you have to try and be as creative as possible, and try and get as much out of the machine as you can.
And I guess that kind of shaped the sound that everyone was doing at that time as well.
Yeah, you know, I mean, like that whole that S950 there, you know, when people started using the time stretch
Yeah,
effect, you know, that for me, I think it first appeared in the S900 or the S950. I'm sure it was one of the two. And you know, you know, there's a couple of tracks with that, you know, that started a couple of jungle tracks that were using that effect, and everyone was like, "Oh my god,
yeah,
where did they, how did they get that effect?" And later on, people discovered that it was from that. And so yeah, there's a few things in that S950 and 900 that there's techniques in there that you can't actually, only that machine can do. It's mad.
yeah,
Just like the looping facilities in it, the way you can just chop a loop up and loop it up the end of it. You know, it's just like I haven't seen any other machine that can do it in that way. So yeah, it was, you know, it was pretty much a groundbreaking piece of equipment really for jungle and drum and bass production, I think.
Yeah,
you ever
there is
tempted to
something
go back and use
really
it
nice
again?
about
Well, you know what? I've been trying to find one on eBay,
Right.
but I can't. I'm not having any luck. But what I do have, I still have my old. You know, later on, I did buy an Akai S3000 sampler, which I've still got here.
Yeah,
Still got here, and you know, that was pretty decent as well. So, but I would love to find an old 900 or 950 somewhere. It's probably, you know, yeah. If I can find one, that'd be great.
I think the prices are going crazy at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Indeed.
Cool. That's should we have a sneak at your next track?
Yeah, sure.
Which out of the three would you
We could go with maybe Saint Etienne one, maybe. Yeah.
Oh, I'll play a snippet of this. I think this has influenced your groove quite a bit. There's a bit of a jump, the vibe in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Nothing Can Stop Us, the Masters at Work remix. That Nick, it's. I mean, Masters at Work have been so instrumental in the innovations that those two guys have pulled together. But there's a lot of feed into garage I can feel from the bump and lift in that groove and the chords, the way they kind of roll. Like, yeah.
You can hear. I mean, like, you know, I mean, everyone knew the original mix to this, you know, which was a classic anyway. But this particular, you know, mix that Master at Work done, you know, it took me a while to find it because, I mean, how I discovered it was like, again, I think it was about 1992 when I was starting to, you know, venture into London, and you know, and then like I say, you know, driving down the M1. And as you're getting closer to London, you started tuning in your radio to, you know, to the pirate stations as you're coming into the South Circle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, you're logging into the pirate stations, and I'm you know, you're hearing Kiss FM, you're hearing Deja Vu, and all these, like, you know, underground pirate stations, and like, you know, people like Paul Trouble Anderson, you know, dropping these.
Yeah.
I'm hearing this particular track. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This is like, you know, this is me. You know, that's what I thought, because I was making this type of style, you know, as well as the jungle stuff. I was making this kind of underground kind of stuff, you know. And this track just resonated with me. And like, for a while, it took me a while to find out who the hell it was, because, you know, when the pirate stations played these tracks, they don't give you the names, do they? So it's like, there was no Shazam back then, you know. And, so it's like, it took me, like, I swear to God, it took me like 15 years to try to find this track, probably longer, right? And then I stumbled in some record shop in Kilburn somewhere, and then I was looking for the records, and then I found the track. Like, oh my God, it was like, you know, it was like the best feeling, you know. And you know, the guy was tried, you know, he knew how badly I wanted the track, and he charged me 50 quid for the track. You know what I mean? I paid for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this track here is just one of those. It's just a really kind of nice feel with the chords and you know, the melodies, those subtle vocals behind it, you know, and it's just the jazz elements in there. and it's quite deep and just soulful and sultry. I thought it just I just love the whole vibe of it. For me, that was like classic Mass Network. You know, I love all their stuff. You know, and I used to buy tracks just for the Mass Network dubs. You know, and this just one of those tracks that's not really widely known, this mix, but for me, it was just one of those tracks that just I just fell in love with it straight away. You know.
Yeah, there's something about Kenny Dope's hat production. I listened to, I think it was a Duck Sauce interview, and he's on about how he used to layer the swing on an SP 1200 over an MPC swing, and that was part of how he got the different kind of grooves on it. Because there's just something quite unique, whatever he gets with it. I
mean, you can hear, you know, obviously, you know, he's legendary. He's legendary on the drums, you know, his whole production. You know, he's probably got every drum machine on known to man. You know, and you know, you can hear like, you know, his hip hop influences as well in his drums. You know, you can hear it. You know, some of his drum loops, they have a subtle a subtle hip hop beat underneath it as well. Just going along, just to kind of give it the groove as well. It's just subtle, and it's amazing, man. What he does with it.
I suppose the hip hop side is sort of something which not many other people have perhaps tapped into as much as him, and that gives him his unique sound. Maybe I don't know. Yeah,
that's true. I mean, a lot of the Americans, a lot of the American producers, you know, that do have that kind of hip hop background. Anyway, you know, even like people like Ahmad Van Houten and, you know, Roger Sanchez and, you know, all those guys, they come from a hip hop background. So yeah, you can kind of hear Todd Terry and people like that. So you can hear like the drums. You know, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of groove within it. You know, and you know, and then just taking that hip hop beat, chopping it up in you know, SP 1200 or MPC, and just putting their own feel on it. You know,
I mean, with the swing you get out of those machines, it's just unreal, isn't it?
It's unreal. It's unreal, man. I mean, that's what I can't. I mean, I've done drums, you know, without a drum machine, but I just feel that when I do drums in a proper drum machine, that, you know, it just sounds so much better. You know, just the swing of it, just, and the actual the sound of it as well. It just sounds more. It just sounds like drums, you know. You know, not so digitized, and it's just got that crunchiness to it as well. You know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's play your third track, mate, which is almost by the Inner City Life by G.O.D. I mean, this is just probably doesn't need a lot of introduction in many ways. The chords
in those open arms is where I wanna be. Living free. I need to feel your love.
Yeah, it's still epic. I mean, where did you first hear that, like, Jeremy?
Wow, I mean, you know, this you know, this track I believe was around about 95, so it was kind of like, it was well into the, you know, the jungle scene was well established, and this was just one of those tracks that kind of like took jungle, you know, as you know, to another level, international level, you know, and this track here, I mean, wow, I mean, I couldn't even tell you where I first heard it, but when I did hear it, you know, I was like, when I first heard it, I kind of knew who it was, if you know what I mean, like the production behind it, because I can hear like, you know, I think Rob Playford, he was the engineer behind it as well as G.O.D, obviously, but like you can hear the production levels, you know, the interest, the complex drums, the arrangement, you know, it was produced like a bloody orchestra, you know what I mean? It was amazing. So like, this is just one of those tracks that kind of like I aspired to, as far as like, you know, production wise, trying to aim for that, you know, it was just one of those tracks that, you know, it's just timeless, really, you know, it was just one of those,
It just blows your mind, doesn't it? How did it do that? Incredible.
It's amazing. The song, I mean, her amazing vocals as well. I forgot her name.
Diane Charlemagne.
That's, you know, she was amazing. You know, I think she died, rest in peace. You know, and yeah, it was just the whole construction behind it. It's just a beautifully produced track, beautifully arranged track. And, you know, it's got so many different layers to it as well. You know, it starts off like nice and mellow, you know, with the vocal, with the strings or surging strings. They're quite dark. It's quite dark. It's quite a dark and moody track.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And the fact that it's quite dark and moody, you know, it got through to mainstream as well, which is crazy. You know, you would think they would try and, you know, they kind of stuck to they didn't try and dilute it. You know, they just kept it raw. You know, how they felt it, and that's what I love about it. You know, just kept it raw, and people resonated to that. And
I've heard G.O.D talks about his arrangements where he's worked with Rob Playford. He would arrange stuff out almost like a picture of showing how the story would go from a start to end and things. I mean, is that something have you taken any of that sort of stuff?
Absolutely, yeah. Like I say, you know, I want to say it inspired me not just musically, just the production levels behind it and the thought process, you know, that they would have had to come up with something like this. You know, it's the attention to detail, you know, just choosing the right sounds, the vocal texture, the mix down. It's just like, yeah, I try and have that approach with my music now, you know, since then, and you know, just I look at it as a painting, as a picture, you know, and just try and you know, look at it as a story, you know what I mean, from start to finish. You know, that's the way I try and do my track, especially when I'm working with vocals. You know, not even just with vocals, just generally anyway. Just, you know, just try and look at it from a perspective where, you know, there's a start, middle, and end, and taking people on a journey throughout the whole track. You know.
Yeah.
You know, and that was just one of those tracks that done that for me.
Oh, for sure. It really does work like that.
Stands out, like,
incredible.
Yeah.
I saw him do a live thing at the South Bank. It must have been like 2015 or something like that. I think it'll have been like the 20th anniversary maybe of Timeless with I think it was like Jules Barclay Orchestra, and you had like G.O.D all excitable kind of conducting the whole orchestra, and I mean, with a, like, I don't know, maybe 20-piece orchestra behind it, and it still carried the weight and rhythm, but had this, could have been a classical piece of music. Do you know what I mean? Like, just the way it was set out, it showed you the quality of the music, really, that it transcended so well to that setting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, I believe, I mean, that album is like 25 years old now. You know what I mean? I think they've reached, a moment where it's like, yeah, it's been 25. I think he's actually celebrated that quite recently. But you know, and I heard him talking about it online somewhere, and I actually like went back to listen to the album again. You know, the whole album. Like, and I tell you what, mate, it literally is timeless. You know, just like the name says, it's a timeless album. And just listening to it again, it just kind of brings you back to that moment in time where, yeah, you know, it was just, I don't know, man. It's
quite strict, because I think Rob Playford doesn't do anything with music now, does he? He disappeared after a few years, didn't he? After that, I don't know the full details, but he just, I don't believe he produces.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because yeah, you could be right there, because I haven't heard anything else since. You know, I know he was doing stuff with Moving Shadow Records. I'm not sure if that was his label or he was on the label, or I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, you know, he hasn't really done anything significant since this, I believe. I could be totally wrong, but yeah, I mean, he was an instrumental part of G.O.D's early career. You know, you know, and not just G.O.D, you know, a lot of other people on the scene as well. You know, so yeah, it's yeah, it's a shame, man. You know, he was a guy that was kind of unsung in a way as well. You know, he was kind of under the radar, really. He was you know, G.O.D was kind of taking up the limelight, not the limelight, but you know, obviously, maybe Rob didn't want to be in the limelight. You know what I'm saying? But you know, he was just one of those. He's one of the guys behind the scenes, man. And you know, credit to him, man. Credit to him. Yeah.
We picked a couple of your tracks, Jeremy, that we thought one of your classics from the 90s that Paul's played out quite a lot, and we've heard on the dance floor and everything. and yeah, and then a more newer track. So for Give a Blast, this one is under your G.O.D acronym. Watch Your Bass Bins, which is on a Fabric mix recently with I mean, it's so recognizable, that the bass line, the groove, and the vocal. I mean, what were you thinking when you made that? What was...
You know what? It's funny you picked that track out, because it kind of ties into what was talking about with the other tracks as well. Because you know, with this track, you know, what I wanted to do was, you know, you can hear my jungle influences in there, right? At the time, I didn't, you know, people call it speed garage or whatnot, but at the time, you know, if you check even my tracks prior to that on Nice and Right, you know, a lot of my tracks had very much it was very bass orientated. It had those jungle sounds, and I used to take samples from jungle records or whatever, and just it was just one of those tracks where it just kind of fit in with where I thought I was. And as far as like, I wanted to make a house track that had jungle elements in there, and yeah, just try and stand out from everyone else. Really, it was just that, you know, you can hear the bass line, big bass line, you know, busy drums, you know, little reggae samples coming in and out, you know what I mean, just surging little effects coming in, you know, the arrangement, big breakdown with the chords and the strings, you know, just like those kind of early jungle tracks, you know what I mean? It had that kind of,
Right.
I had that mentality of you know, making a house track with a jungle attitude, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the full process behind this, really.
Were you still using your archives that back then? And is it all sample based, or is there other stuff going on?
Yeah, pretty much at this time. I think I've done this one at Nice and Right Studios. So we had the Atari ST there. Yeah, and I was still using the C-Lab Creator there as well, and then but by that time, I bought new equipment. I bought an MPC 3000 drum machine. Okay, so all the drums were done on the MPC. I had like a Roland, JV 1080 synthesizer. I had a Proteus. I had oh man, what else did I have? Oh yeah, Oberheim Matrix. Oberheim Matrix. You know, which I got a lot of bass sounds from. But this particular track, it was mainly sample bass, really. You know, I borrowed the bass sound from it was like it might be some 808 State record or something like that. Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. Wow. And then I kind of but the actual bass riff was inspired by, I can't remember the name, but I think it was around about, I think it might have been an 808 State record or something around that similar kind of vibe. Well, kind of, you know, I just kind of like borrowed influence on that, you know, as a bass line for this. And they
were phenomenal.
Throwing samples here and there. That's what I was doing with this, man. I didn't really plan it. It was just one of those things where I just kind of in the studio, I had the beat going on, you know, which I normally start with my beat on the MPC. Got a beat going on, you know what I mean, and just, you know, had an idea for a bass riff, and everything else just kind of fell into place, really, and just adding stuff on as I went along, really. You know, there was no actually like there's no plan on this one. Sometimes the best things happen when you just don't plan it. Just go with the flow. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, you did a huge number of G.O.D productions at that time. There seemed to be stuff coming out, you know, every week at one point. Yeah, I mean, the very, very original G.O.D was Grant Nelson, and then I kind of carried on when I moved to Nice and Right, doing stuff with them. When I moved to London and to Nice and Right, I started doing. They asked me to do the G.O.D 2, so I've done G.O.D 2, 3, 4, and 5. you know, and that must have been for over a period of like maybe 2 or 3 years, maybe.
Oh, right.
So,
Was it that? Okay.
yeah, they were quite popular. Those G.O.D series, you know, they were good sellers. You know, we were selling like tens of thousands per unit. You know,
Right. Yeah.
it was ridiculous. So it was good. It was good.
What's it stand for? The G? What's the?
Well, I don't actually know. I hear different things. You know, so I don't. You know what? No one actually knows. I don't know. You know, probably the one person that would know would probably be Grant Nelson. You know, because he was the original guy that done it. You know, with Nice and Ripe. And so I don't know the history behind that. To be fair, I just kind of came in from, you know, they asked me to do it from 2 onwards, and I did, but I don't know. I heard there was links to Todd Terry, Todd the God.
Right.
I heard G.O.D meant Grant on drugs. I heard like different things. Yeah, I don't know what's true or not, but but it's a great name. It's a great name. Put it that way.
Yeah.
You know?
It seemed to be quite a bit of sort of swapping at that time, you know, producers taking on other people's names that they'd come up with. Wasn't there? Isn't there a similar story about that? Similar sort of thing with Masters at Work?
I'm not sure actually. I couldn't tell you, to be fair. I don't know too much about that. I mean, yeah. You talking about the story behind Masters at Work? I don't know.
No, I mean, somebody started off producing under a name, and then somebody else has moved it forward.
Oh right, yeah. I mean, that happens all the time. Whether it's been agreed to, or whether there's been some kind of dispute or whatever. You just don't know really. But yeah, I suppose that happens sometimes as well. Yeah.
So was it in this case though? It sounds like it was the label that was behind it though. Is that right?
Yeah, because there was a guy called George Power. He ran the label Nice and Ripe, and then initially I believe it was, you know, I think the whole idea for Nice and Ripe, I believe, came from Grant Nelson, and then he hooked up with George Power, he was more of a business guy at the time, and then basically you know, they was doing stuff, you know, with Nice and Ripe and whatnot, and then I think Grant left for whatever reason, I don't know. But and then and I just kind of, you know, at that time I just moved to London, and I come on board and I started producing, using their studio. I started producing tracks for them. You know, not just on Nice and Ripe. They had different labels. You know, they had like Trouble Records, In the Air Records, Zest for Life, obviously the whole G.O.D thing, and then, you know, but we done like many other there's many other labels as well, and different pseudonyms I was using as well, and bootlegs as well, you know, all kinds of white labels and stuff like that. So it was just like we were just churning out just music on a weekly basis, man. I mean, it was great for me. I loved it. That's all I wanted to do, you know. So like it was good for me. It was just a good outlet for me to just kind of get my ideas down, and knowing that there's a label, you know, believing what I'm doing and willing to put it out, and you know, it was great, you know, and you know, here I am now, kind of thing.
Were you both doing both the sort of producer and the engineer side of things, or?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I you know, I didn't train to become an engineer. I just kind of picked it up myself through, you know, for myself, and watching my dad who had a studio in Birmingham and stuff like that. So like, I was doing all the production. I do all my engineering myself, and then, you know, a lot of the stuff that was coming out through Nice and Ripe, it would get mastered by somebody else,
right?
You know, for vinyl, you know. So yeah.
Quality. You mentioned it with State there. So were you quite a big fan of theirs? Like, 'cause I mean, they've done some really varied and amazing productions. Their sort of first 3 or 4 albums were,
Yeah. No, I mean, I wasn't like a massive fan of anything, but just certain tracks that I liked, you know, and I just really, because, you know, I was into my rave and stuff. I was anything with a big bass line, anything that's uniquely have that British sound, that British underground sound. You know, I just love what they do. Just the whole, just the production levels behind it. You know, you can hear those kind of influence that they had. You know, from like, you know, Chicago, Detroit techno, and all those type of, you know, sounds. Like, you know, I just loved the fact that it was, you know, what 808 State was doing. It was very uniquely our sound, you know, and you know, had those rave influences, and just it was like a mixing pot, the whole reggae sound system sounds, it was just, it was like a melting pot of it kind of reflected the nation, you know what I mean, in a way, you know.
I mean, do you feel that things are sort of returning that to that at the moment in some respects? I mean, it just seems to be that everyone's playing a little bit of everything at the moment. You're not kind of pigeonholed into somebody's doing just techno, just house. So, I mean, sure, there are some people who are like that, but a lot of people seem to be crossing a lot of musical boundaries at the moment. Well, that's the impression I get. Do you pick that up as well? Or?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. I mean, we're so exposed to music now more than ever before, because of the internet and whatnot. So it's like naturally we're going to be influenced by it. So it's naturally going to be, it's naturally going to be in the music that we create. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. I mean, me personally, I don't like being pigeonholed because people say I'm a UK. Some people know me from UK garage. Some people know me from speed garage. Some people know me from jungle. You know what I mean? And then to me, I see myself as just an electronic music producer. I love music, and with the music I'm doing, it's been inspired by my journey of music, from the early 90s onwards. So, like I said before, you can hear those jungle influences. You can hear influences from my old man. He comes from disco and funk and soul. You know what I'm saying? So, I've got that in there. So you can hear the rave influences as well. So yeah, even with all the different styles I've done, from garage to from jungle to garage to I used to do breakbeat. It still kind of has the underlying elements in there which kind of makes me who I am, kind of thing.
Yeah, no, you can really hear that.
Oh
yeah.
We'll play another track of yours, Jeremy. We picked where you'd came out a little bit earlier this year. That was on Curry Chandler's label Madhouse. It was kind of a bit summing up some of the things you've said there. You're mixing it in a little bit of a different direction, some deeper, but you've got that bump and groove, nice club vocal. So we'll play a snippet of that. It's called "Welcome to the Club."
Okay.
Really, you can feel your groove in it, but again, it's got a bit more of a deeper sound, that like what would Curry in that sort of different, slightly different direction. Is that something you're?
Yeah, I was trying to. Yeah, I guess I was. You can hear those early masterwork influences. I like to believe that you can hear those.
Like the organ and things you've got in there
those deep chords, which are quite, they're quite deep and soulful. But at the same time, it's got that bump. The drums are really skippy. There's a lot of swing on them, and the drums are quite busy as well. Especially with the hi-hats and the tambourines on top of it as well. And it's I was just trying to bring those elements together, a bit of rough and a bit of smooth. That's always been my philosophy, really. With a lot of my music as well. It's to have the rough underground elements to it, but at the same time, it's got those nice little elements, especially with the chords and whatnot. And sometimes vocals, just get that nice balance there.
Yeah. Are you trained on an instrument? Because you do seem to generally have some really nice chord progressions, and that's some more complex sounds, I think.
No, I'm not trained at all, really. If I'm honest with you,
right?
I could lie and say, I was classically trained and whatnot, No, I'll be totally honest. No, I mean, I've got a good ear. I can play a little bit, You know, I'm not the one that can go on stage and, you know, do a live performance with a keyboard or whatnot. You know what I mean? You know, in the studio, you know, I know what I want to hear. I know what sounds to bring in. I know what chords work with what. I know about transition in my head. You know, it might take me a little while to get it, but you know, I think, yeah, I'm not trained, but I've got a trained ear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, I like to believe anyway. You know, sometimes, you know, it might not be technically, you know, a chord transition might not technically be correct to a classical trained pianist, but to me, there's something about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just works somehow. You might not be technically right, but it just somehow just works, you know. So, but at the same time, I'm still trying to keep within those boundaries of like, you know, what's actually right and correct. You know what I mean? But sometimes it can fluctuate a little bit, you know.
So you're obviously not using the Akai's anymore. So what's your studio sort of process?
Whoa,
What's your tools?
yeah. I've scaled back quite a bit lately, but yeah, you know, my backbone, you know, is my, you know, obviously I use my MacBook with Logic, Ableton. I've got the backbone to my drums is my MPC. I've got an MPC Live.
Okay, yeah.
Drum machine. I've still got the MPC. I used to have an MPC 60 as well. But even back then, I wasn't really using it. I was using more the MPC 3000. But yeah, I've still got the MPC 60. I've just got an old Mackie 32 desk, 32 to 8 desk. I've got my JV1080. I've still got some of my older sound modules, which are hard to use, but it's there anyway. You know, EMI Proteus. I've got a Juno 106 keyboard. I've got Trinity. I forgot the name of it now. I've got DX7 keyboard, DX10. Yeah, but for what I'm doing now, you know, it's mainly my MacBook, my MPC, and that's pretty much it, really. You know what I mean? That's what I'm mainly using. I've got a ton of plugins and stuff, you know, within my Mac and whatnot. So yeah, that's the backbone of what I'm doing right now, pretty much. Yeah.
It's what essential tools.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know, I just try to keep things simple, really. You know, I mean, certain things I might need. I just bring certain things out when I need to bring it out. You know what I mean? Sometimes I might go down a route where I want to get that authentic kind of, you know, house sound or whatnot. Sometimes I'll pull out my, you know, my DX7 or, you know, or whatnot. You know, even though I have it as a plugin, but sometimes it's just nice to have, you know, just to bring out the original machine and just have that running alongside. You know, yeah. So
I mean, it's obviously the drums are on the MPC. Is there any sort of, in terms of other sounds, you know, synths? Is there anyone which you sort of immediately load up straight away, or you know, tinker away with until you find something?
As far as like what does it mean? Sorry.
Is there a synth or anything that you know you would automatically first choose, or does it just vary on, you know, your mood and vibe and that kind of thing?
I use Massive quite a lot. I use Slim quite a bit. Because of the music I'm doing lately, it's, you know, it's very much that 90s influence stuff, isn't it? So it's like, so yeah, you know, the Korg M1, you know, those kind of plugins and that, you know, I've got like, I've even got a JV1080 plugin. You know, sometimes I tend to pull those kind of old school plugins in you know, into my music lately, you know, especially for like the garaging and house stuff I'm doing lately. So yeah, yeah.
Where do you go looking for new sounds to inspire you? I mean, you still, even the Welcome to Clubs track, it still feels pretty fresh. I know you're taking some retro sounds, but it still sounds pretty fresh and modern. The production and everything is there some sounds that are inspiring you at the moment, or you trying to go in there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much like, I like to create my own sounds. I you know, there's no real go-to plugin or such really. You know, I'll just use what I've got and I try and create something from it. You know, that's my own thing. You know, sometimes I might sample record, I've been sampling records again. I haven't done that for a while.
Right. Yeah.
Taking bits from records, man, and just going back to my old school mentality of how I used to do it, and you know, and that triggers off some really good, interesting ideas again. You know what I mean?
Is it still stuff then, like the same kind of stuff that you were sampling back in, back in the day? Or,
yeah, I mean, I've still got my record collection. I'm taking stuff from jazz records and funk records, old soul disco records. And, you know, it might not even just be a loop. It could just be like a snare or a hi-hat or just like a little a sound. You know what I mean? And then, you know, what I do every now and again, I'll gather like a database. I'll spend like I call it sampling day. So I just spend like a whole day just sampling little bits and bobs, just taking it from all kinds of stuff. Spend for hours doing that, just listening to music. And while I'm listening to music, it's actually giving me inspiration at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just gathering sound, just taking little bits and just storing my database there. And you know, and then you know, whenever I jump on a track, then I'll just go into it and just have a look through and see if anything kind of inspires me to to take it, to go somewhere. So you know, I could actually start a track from like just a little sound I've sampled, and that will be the back. That one little sound will kind of will inspire the whole track.
Right.
You know, so that's how I kind of generally work, really. You know.
Cool. Conscious of time, Jeremy. Do you want to? We'll try and wrap this up. Do you want to? It's been awesome hearing about the sounds that's defined your music, your new tunes, and what have you got coming up now? Boris has given us a bit of a green light. Things are going to open up, and we might finally, fingers crossed, get back to some clubs and some live music. What are you looking forward to, or got on the horizon in the coming months?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to, I'm fortunate enough to have a few gigs lined up. I've got something coming up in the next couple of weeks. So I'm DJing on the Thames in London, some boat party.
Oh, yes.
That'll be cool. Sunrise, sunset or anything, or?
Sorry?
Is it going to be anywhere around sunset time or anything like that on the Thames? That'll be pretty nice.
I believe so, yeah. Well, I hope it is anyway. So, it's... No, paid on the Thames. So that's end of July, and then I've got a few gigs lined up in Birmingham. This thing called the Hayes Festival. That's gonna be awesome. Bank holiday, August, and then I've got some gigs lined up in Manchester and Nottingham. The Nottingham one they asked me to do like an old school speed garage vinyl set, which would be interesting. I haven't done that for a while. So that'd be good. So yeah.
Have you seen any resurgence in speed garage interest? Is that? Do you think that's getting pulled?
You know what? It's crazy because like I get a lot of people. Speed garage is still there, man. I'll get a lot of people, especially from the States and Australia and Canada, places like that, asking me about my old speed garage records, man. Like really kind of like, there seems to be a massive appetite for that now. Whether it's like the older vinyl, or you get some of these new producers now making speed garage tracks, trying to make it sound like how it used to, you know what I mean? And they're putting out vinyl, and they're doing quite well. So yeah, it seems to be a demand for it, and I think.
I saw Phonica had a whole section of some reissues of garage, and then there's that. I don't know whether it's Mr. Banana doing these kind of like
Dr. Banana,
garage releases that are pretty cool as well. So and there's definitely still a good appetite. I mean, if it's the groove and everything is quality, if it's
absolutely, yeah. No, it's great, man. So yeah, so I've got that. I'm doing some, like I said before, I mentioned about going back on some of my early jungle. I got inspired by jungle again. I got inspired by jungle again, and just listening back to some of my older tracks and stuff, and because I've got a lot of stuff that was unreleased.
Oh, right.
And I'm going through my DAP tapes, and I'm thinking, wow, like these need to come out. But like I'm getting inspired by them again, and I'm actually recreating or just creating new jungle tracks now with some of the sounds that I used to use back in the day. So that's quite exciting.
Yeah.
There's one particular track that was quite big for me back then. It was a track called Screwface, which is a huge track for me back then. And I'm actually doing I'm doing a remake of it now in the studio. So hopefully we're gonna re-release it out with the original on one side, and then do like the new version on the other side on a vinyl, release like a limited vinyl. So looking to kind of release that through my Bandcamp over the next a few months or so. So that's quite exciting. I do stuff with the Club Asylum stuff as well.
Because I've noticed, I saw Scream's been doing like 140 beats again, hasn't he? Kind of like he did in Albert Hall with some of the dubstep, and I think he put a whole set together in a month with an MC. And I got the sense that people was talking up doing like 140 again and 150 BPM of that sort of vibe. Do you think that's driving a bit of a renewed interest in some of the old school?
Absolutely,
and that as well,
absolutely, yeah. I think so, yeah. I mean, this new dubtronic stuff I'm doing at the moment is like 165 BPM. It's fast, but it's like it's like that jump up jungle style, like real kind of Congo natty kind of like DJ hype style. You know what I mean? It's but yeah, it's mad. The kids nowadays, it's crazy, man. They're actually like, they're getting inspired by a lot of that stuff, and they're even creating it themselves. You got labels like what's the name of the label? This girl called A for Alpha, Abby. She runs this label called Coconut and Melons or something like that in Bristol. She runs this night, and it's like a speed garage night, but at the same time she's got a label like dedicated to just old school jungle, like making an old school jungle sound again. And it's great, man. It's I'm hearing like Radio 1 playing it, those old school jungle tracks, and it seems to be a thing right now. So yeah, I'm all for it, man. Yeah,
but Bristol loves the bass music, like, so yeah, it's not surprising. They're reviving a bit of it. Yeah. Oh, cool. Sounds like you're gonna have a busy few months then.
It's exciting, man. I just love doing it. It's what I do. And it's nice to kind of do what I'm doing. I'm working with like-minded people, collaborating, and just doing it because we love the music, really. That's the main reason.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Jeremy. That was superb hearing about your inspirations, your music, what's coming up. We'll get some links, and we'll put some details. And thanks very much, and all the best going forward.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Thank you.